Hi everyone, I'm back with another Q&A and an itch. So basically the gist is that somebody wrote me about feeling like they wanted to give up on their dreams because of their condition. So this is actually quite similar to a question I received last week and I answered, but this kind of has a different twist. And I had some other thoughts, so I wanted to share them with you. First of all, take a look at this quote. And now I would like to follow it up with this picture. I love this quote and I love this picture because it shows that this guy was like right there. He was like seconds away from attaining his goal, but he gave up right before. Where's my phone? Oh, here it is. It's because my little puppy went out for a walk and I have to make sure he comes back. It sounds like he went out by himself. He actually did not go out by himself, but I have to make sure that he comes back. For all those of you who know my little doggy, his name is Raz. All right, so let me just make sure I'm answering the question. Okay, so first of all, I know this feeling so well, so incredibly well, that you're working so hard on something and you're putting everything into it and it's taking forever and it doesn't seem to be working and you're losing motivation and you just want to stop and you want to give up and it just feels like, what's the point? I always in the back of my head, I'm like, what's the point? We're all gonna die one day. It's very depressing, but it's like in the back of my head, it's real. I'm like, what's the point of it all? You've lost motivation, it feels really hard. You feel you're starting to get angry, which is a problem. Anger is a problem. When you're all caught up in all that negative stuff, the hardest thing to find for me is perspective. Perspective is like gold. It's like when people say, be grateful and then everything will be happy. I'm like, okay, I'm grateful, but like, it's like, it's hard for me sometimes to use, even though gratitude I know is the answer, it's hard for me sometimes to find it when I'm like in this whirlwind of negativity. But for some reason, perspective is a little bit easier for me to find, and I guess it's kind of works hand in hand with gratitude, but perspective is easier for me to find because all of a sudden I realize that the simple truth that I could just drop dead at any second. And I don't just mean because of pulmonary hypertension or what's going on with me, but I mean in general as human beings on this earth, we could all just drop dead at any second. And when I remember that, I actually gain some perspective. In my case, I was literally told I was gonna die 5 years ago, and it kind of like, it just like seeped into my being and was the worst thing I was ever told, but also has given me an incredible amount of perspective. Everybody, of course, is dealing with their own mortality every day, but when you do have an illness that is life-threatening, it's like this mortality guy sitting on your shoulder and he's like, oh, what if you die? What if you die? What if you die? And it does get really scary. At least for me, it gives me an enormous amount of perspective. So I use that perspective to help me when I feel like I want to give up. And the reason is because when you realize that you could just drop dead, all of a sudden being alive becomes the most important thing. And all of those other like little life problems, I call them, even though they're big, they're quite small relative to your own life, because without your life, none of those things matter, of course. So like your daily problems and worries and lack of motivations and like your work isn't going right and it's too stressful at home and like there's too much going on that's bad, all of a sudden when you think about the fact that you could just drop dead, at least for me, for some reason it adds a little humor to the whole thing and I'm like, oh, wait a second, I'm still alive. So that's good. And all these other problems, I can actually, through hard work, I can fix them. I can't fix myself if I'm dead, but as long as I'm alive, I can actually fix the problems of life, though that may be very difficult. It kind of gives me my power back and gives me perspective, and that's the perspective that I need to be able to move forward. So again, this person's talking about wanting to give up on their dream, and I would say, don't do it. Don't do it under any circumstance. Like I talked about in the previous video, all these obstacles come into our lives and there's always two ways that we can perceive these obstacles. One, are these messages telling me to stop and give up? Or two, are these messages coming at me asking me how much I actually want what I'm striving to attain? Basically, it's how you decide to see the situation. And this person does have an illness. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's pulmonary hypertension, but I would say use that as your strength. You have an opportunity. I always think that like with this stuff and all this health stuff, there are a lot of non-perks, of course, and I would trade it in a second for complete health. But I think that if you're in a situation where you do have a health challenge, use it, use it to your advantage. It sounds a little bit backwards, but it's like you have a constant reminder of the fact that you're alive, like buzzing around. And that is like, could potentially give you a huge amount of perspective and a huge amount of gratitude for being alive. And when you feel that, all of a sudden the daily life problems become a lot less serious, and all the tasks you're trying to accomplish become a little bit less monumental. As another tip, if you are like me, you like to accomplish everything right now, completely, in the best way, perfectly, and it can become very overwhelming. So I would say, in addition to all these other things I've been talking about, figuring out what the big goal is, of course, breaking it down into tiny little steps, accomplishing those little steps. You could write down essentially on a paper all your goals, and then don't just kind of look at your goals, but like break those goals down into little baby steps and put those little baby steps into your calendar. That way you're actually accomplishing them as the weeks go by, and you're seeing yourself accomplish things, whether they're big or small. You're still moving forward, and that action of moving forward is going to help inspire and motivate you to want to continue to move forward, and it's going to show you that you can. And the truth is, I don't feel that anything should stop us. I feel like there's so many things in life that could stop us, but they shouldn't. Do I have a fly on my face? Yes. To sum this up, my 3 pieces of advice are: when you feel like you want to give up, don't. Remember that you're lucky to be alive. Remove the pressure. Take your time and break huge tasks into smaller tasks. And in accomplishing those smaller tasks, you'll become inspired to continue, which will show you that you are the kind of person that accomplishes what they set out to accomplish, which will fuel your motivation. Don't let anything stop you. Let your disability or illness, whatever it may be, let that be fuel for you. Let it remind you how lucky you are to be alive, and let it bring you constant perspective to accomplish your mission. These are things that help me. I really hope they can be of help to you too. As always, you can write me at lifebychloe.com with questions, whatever it is you want to write me with. Thank you for watching, and I will see you very soon.